Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Yes, I'm in a hotel room, and yes, I'm still going to deliver some Vikings hot takes today.
Luke Inman, Superior Sports Talk. Go to the nearest ATM, grab as much cash as possible. Lay it all down on the Jags this week. I've got insider info. They're due. Trust me, I would know.
Hi, this is Arif Hassan with Pro Football Network. I am also not in my home, but I will not disclose where that is.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. Don't let the mainstream media lie to you. One of us is running from the law.
It's the Minnesota football party. What can I say? Let's get into it.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota football party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Pro Football Network's Arif Hassan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota football party. And it starts now.
Welcome into the Minnesota football party. I am Sam Ekstrom of The Ron Johnson Show and Locked On Sports Minnesota, joined by the usual panel, Luke Inman, Superior Sports Talk. He's on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. That's what we call him, the Spinman. Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, at Luke Braun NFL. Arif Hassan, at Arif Hassan NFL, a Pro Football Network. On today's show, we're going to name a Viking that we would extend right now. I've got some Vikings would you rather. OBJ be a Viking. And it's the much anticipated return of the game that's been sweeping the nation. Name drop. That's coming up later in the show. Make sure to download Locked On Sports Minnesota on Amazon Fire and Roku apps for a seamless viewing experience. You can watch the Minnesota football party on your television or the Ron Johnson Show or Superior Sports Talk. You also get a good experience on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let's start with this. A lot of Twitter folks excited about OBJ in purple. I've seen the renderings or the deep fakes of OBJ in purple. Are they realistic? On a scale of 1 to 10 on the absurd scale. Luke Inman, you can start.
Well, first thing you think of, the cap. You know, that'd be a little project for Kwesi to create some more room. There's the connection factor going to KOC in LA. He knows the playbook already. Kwesi in Cleveland. JJ even at LSU. Hashtag chemistry, right? But maybe the most importantly, sitting at 5-1. I don't think anybody expected them to be this good with this record. Maybe they're changing their thought process a little bit as the season goes along and says, why not this year? Packers are a mess. 2-game lead plus the tiebreaker. NFC, we know that's wide open. Outside of maybe the Eagles, a 2 or 3 seed, it's on the table. So maybe the mindset is, let's push some chips in the middle. But having said all that, that's the pros. The cons, what OBJ are you getting, right? I mean, 2 ACL injuries 2 years in a row. Last time was 8 months ago. Is it realistic to spend all that money and expect the same OBJ at this point? At earliest, I would think come playoff time, he'd be starting to get full speed. Honestly, I think I'd rather just try to tap into what you got with Osborne and even Jalen Reagor as they're 3 and 4 and figure out how to start finding ways to get them the ball. So much was made about that 11 personnel. KJ Osborne, only 177 yards, averaging under 30 yards per game this season through 6 games. So 1 to 10, considering all that, the absurd scale. I would be surprised, let's say that. Feels like Buffalo, I think, is the odds-on favorite, which makes sense. But because of all the connections and the fact they're 5-1, I wouldn't be like jaw on the floor shocked. So I'll say 5 out of 10. Like slightly more absurd than not absurd is the way I'd put it. 5 out of 10.
Arif, would you go higher absurdity or lower absurdity than Spinman's 5?
I would have to go a higher absurdity. I mean, the problem is the Vikings have the lowest amount of cap space in the NFL, and receiver is not the problem. Like, we've seen that there's a lack of production for those secondary and tertiary receivers, but that's not the fault of those receivers. They're getting open. The issue is how Kirk Cousins is approaching his progressions, which I think, will eventually fix itself by the time we get to the end of the season. Having Odell Beckham is not going to change that. Like, it is, important to note that he's got system experience, that he's good within that system. But, I don't think the Vikings will be able to outbid anybody. I don't think the Vikings want to put together a multi-year contract to make cap space work. And at $860,000 of cap space, not even like most of your cap space tricks are going to work for you unless you restructure somebody else. And I think if the Vikings were going to restructure somebody else, they already would have. I mean, this is a critically low amount of cap space. That said, he would help the team, just probably not as much as his contract would demand. And he'd be able to contribute right away. I think that's not really true in a lot of teams. So there is something there. I just don't think that that's something that's very strong. I'm going to say it's like an 8 on the absurdity scale.
Well, didn't the Chiefs already sort of play their hand by restructuring Kelsey? Aren't they definitely going to land OBJ and have him rip up teams in January? I'm also curious, Luke Braun, and you can give us your number. Where did the cap space go? Like, I thought the conversation was when they cut Davis and Armand Watts, the Vikings have opened up space to make a big move for Ndamukong Suh. Was it always this bad?
I'd have to look at like the actual calculations and stuff. Some of it has to be like earmarked away because Za'Darius Smith is hitting incentives, although that's not typically a problem till next year. But also a lot of it, like the process of roster cutdowns costs a lot more than I think most people think. You have to sign everybody on your practice squad. Those all count against the cap. You got 16 players all making $500,000 or so. You have, or $300,000, whatever they make. You have the bottom 2 players on your roster. Your only top 51 count up until roster cut day, and then all 53 count. So there's additional 2 players have to count on whatever salaries they're making. So I think it just
Vikings
helps
also
to
have
make
$26 million in dead money.
Yeah. So that's part of the problem. Yeah, and that's
not bad.
A lot of that was not re-signing Anthony Barr, and just a whole bunch of other things kind of adding up that hopefully you can get out from under. But yeah, like Arif said, it's a 7 or an 8. It would require like a perfect needle threading of the Vikings wanting to incur the cost on future years that it would require, because you would have to restructure a player, and you would probably have to do a lot of void year shenanigans with the contract of Odell Beckham to make it happen, which basically means you're paying for this in future years. Do you want to be paying in future years for something you did in 2022 to that extent? The Vikings would have to say yes to that question, and Odell Beckham would have to choose Minnesota, which isn't that absurd, right? Justin Jefferson's here, Kevin O'Connell's here, but that's another hurdle you have to get over. He's got to be healthy enough to play, and you got to be comfortable that he's healthy enough to play to pay him. There's all these little hurdles you have to get over before it happens. It would be a pretty crazy thing to do. I do think it would have some impact just because it would make it that much harder to double Justin Jefferson, and people doubling Justin Jefferson and getting away with one-on-one coverage has been shown as the best way to slow down the Minnesota Vikings. That would make that strategy that much harder. But would it be worth it incurs a lot of costs, and some of those costs you would be paying for down the line. You got to decide if that's really worth it.
So I've got it as an 8.7 on the absurd scale. I just think that he's coming off injury, cap space, and I love what KJ Osborne brings. But I also respect the Rams' approach to amassing weapons. And look how that came in handy. Didn't Robert Woods tear up his knee 1 week after they acquired OBJ? You don't know what's going to happen. So in that sense, yes, make a run at the guy. Go get him, and just, if you have to stash him until he gets fully healthy, fine. So I'm going to put you all on the spot. You restructure Dalvin Cook and kick Cook money down the road, because that's far and away the easiest contract to mess around with. Would you do that to sign OBJ? Spinman?
I don't think so. Again, I think, year one, Kwesi, KOC, how much do they want to kick this can down the road? And obviously, I don't know the numbers. I'm not sure how much they're going to be kicking that can. What are we talking? Couple million, more than 5, 6, 7 million, something like that. I don't think they want to mortgage too much of the future, knowing, again, they have capable receivers in Osborne and Jalen Reagor they just haven't tapped into quite yet, versus all the risks that both Luke, Arif, and yourself, Sam, have already mentioned about OBJ and trying to push all those chips. This probably isn't the year, despite the 5-1 start, this probably isn't the year they want to all of a sudden start pushing all these chips in and say, let's go pot committed right now and try to make a big move and mortgage some of the future later for a guy like OBJ.
Arif?
I mean, it's also just not like where the team needs to spend their resources. Like, yeah, it made sense for the Rams, and it made even more sense after it turned out that Robert Woods was injured after the signing. But, you don't know what position is going to end up with an injury, right? Like, maybe they should have spent it on running back because Dalvin Cook gets injured, or maybe they could have done it at linebacker because Eric Kendrick. Like, we don't know, and so all we can do is make it, decisions with the information that we have at hand. Right now, we know that receiver is a good position, right? Like, I think, obviously, again, Odell Beckham would help the team out if they signed him, but it's one of those situations where, if you end up making all of these moves to clear up cap space, first of all, you probably should have done that already so that you'd have the ability to be more aggressive by the time the trade deadline rolls around. But second, why don't you just do that for a position that could use a lot more help, maybe cornerback, right? I just feel like there's just a lot more available for you there to add wins than at receiver.
If there's a cornerback available, then yeah, for sure.
Is there a cornerback on the Panthers? I feel like you could just grab one.
Not an Odell-sized corner.
The upgrade from
Odell
from KJ Osborne to Odell is significant, but smaller than I think the upgrade from like Shannon Sullivan to whatever nickel corner is on the Panthers. I don't know who they have now.
All right, yeah, sure. One other thing to consider is the longer it takes, the cheaper Odell gets, because the more weeks he missed, the fewer weeks you got to pay him for. By 1/17 of the season, every time. It's something to consider when you're trying to calculate how this could happen.
So, speaking of the Panthers, would it be a never ever, or a never ever ever would you make a move for Christian McCaffrey? I would say
I just don't think running back makes. Talk about receiver not making sense. I don't think running back makes much sense at all. Obviously, hey, if we're playing Madden with the salary cap turned off, okay, yeah, sure. Of course, you'd love to have C-Mac with JJ and Cook on the field at the same time with KOC. That's a video game pipe dream considering the cost it would take to get him. Vikes don't have that kind of money. Plus, I'm not one for giving away draft picks for the future in general, let alone for a devalued kind of watered down position like running back. So yeah, absurd scale. Probably 10 out of 10.
Look, Dalvin Cook is injury prone and expensive. Let's do all of that again.
Double down.
But for draft
Except
picks.
more so. More injury.
So you have a 12. Double down.
Yeah. But he is a good player.
Could I interest you in a dirt cheap Cam Akers? Dirt cheap Cam Akers, anyone? Rookie deal. Anyone?
No. Again, the Vikings don't need a running back, but who knows? Dalvin Cook could get injured down the line. Might as well prepare for that eventuality. No, I mean,
they're pretty comfortable with Madison as the backup.
No, I know.
That's
that's
a big thing.
Well, what if you traded
I don't
Madison
really see what
4 acres?
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a
Sure.
possibility. I just really don't see what Akers brings to the table that one of those three backups don't. I get the LA connection factor again, and when healthy, I guess Akers was all right. He was pretty solid, but again, maybe the last position I would think the front office would be looking to bring in, and also too stealing valuable reps from the guys like Kene and Chandler that you want to see develop only probably makes it harder to justify as well. So yeah, 9.3 out of 10 absurdity scale.
Here's the angle on this.
What about Brian Burns though?
As an available player.
People have floated the possibility that Brian Burns is available from the Panthers.
What are we talking?
That is the case,
that was third.
I don't know. What do you think it would cost? That's how much it costs in this discussion.
I would assume the Panthers would ask for a first. I'd assume you'd meet somewhere in the middle, second and change, second and fourth, second conditional fifth, something like that.
And then would you do
honestly,
it?
I would think about that. Second round pick, Brian Burns. I haven't followed Brian Burns that closely the last year or so. Coming out, though, obviously very highly regarded.
Yeah, he's still good.
He's been very solid. He's he's good. Second
Young.
and change, I would think about that
and he's
pretty
young.
hard, given the age, and still on that rookie contract for sure. You're going to have to extend him, though, here coming up in the next year or two. So you got to keep that in mind as well. You got to pay JJ all that money.
Darius Smith is
Kurt,
like 7 void years. Who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of extensions and void years and money in general, here's my next question.
Look at these segues.
There-
man. This is great.
There are like a dozen or so Vikings in contract years. You've got to give out one extension today. Who's getting it?
Dalvin Tomlinson. Easy.
Dalvin. It's Dalvin for sure.
he
Doesn't
a
get the
contract year?
spotlight.
Yeah.
Void.
Yeah,
If you're not
4 years.
including the void,
That's why I didn't
18
find
million
it. Oh
void
my God,
years.
it's that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's when you pull up Vikings free agents next year, he's not on spot rack right away. But yeah, void year. Again, we all know doesn't get the spotlight, does all the dirty work, but he's been a huge piece of the Vikings front seven when they've had success this year. Helped open things up for guys around him. Outstanding PFF grades right now. Maybe the best all-around defender week in and week out. Super consistent. I'd be awfully bummed if they couldn't find a way to keep him around moving forward. Unlike, Pat P or Bradbury, I think finding Tomlinson's replacement that could play at the same high level he's playing at right now would be the hardest transition of the three that I just mentioned with Pat P and Bradbury, because I've assumed those guys would be near the top of the discussion as well.
Yeah, I do want to ask like whether or not you would extend Garrett Bradbury given kind of how he's played this year. Now I think his PFF grades I think overstate his case, but and obviously last week was not a phenomenal showing for this particular discussion, but he has a good pass protection grade, something that he historically has not had, and he also has 4 years or I guess 3 years of history to tell you that this is a remarkably bad idea. I already saw Luke Braun shake his head no, even though he is on the Garrett Bradbury truther train. So I'm kind of curious, what's going on there. But I want to say, like, what would it take for you to, because Kyle Fuller, for example, another player that was a disappointing 3 years, and then in his fourth, and so they declined his fifth-year option. His fourth year, he balled out. They gave him a huge contract extension. And I guess they kind of regret it, but that first couple of years it looked pretty good.
Yeah, my Bradbury take, most of the fight was to not bench him, because I thought benching him for Mason Cole wasn't a good idea. But I was like, he's just gonna play out his contract and walk. That was always the take. He'll play out his contract and walk, and that's still the take. He's still the same guy he's always been. He didn't suddenly magically get better because his PFF grade went up. They're hiding him. You don't extend a center that you're hiding.
Let's remember that Nick Easton and Pat Elflein both got big long-term deals after their Vikings career. Nick Easton and Pat Elflein. So who's to say that Bradbury isn't worth
Comp picks?
Big relative to their talent? Elflein got 3 and 18. Easton got 4 and 20.
You got a 6th-round pick out of both of those guys.
They definitely got a 6th-round pick out of Easton. I remember that.
Yeah, we got no 4th or 6th next year. We need those back.
They should not fall for the trick. The Vikings shouldn't, but someone will. Someone's going to pay the guy, and more power to them.
Will.
Yeah, what's amazing is that
his
people
age
thought
32 season.
Perfect. People thought that the Jets got a good deal in Pat Elflein because some of his highlights as a center made it to Twitter where he's pancaking people, and it's that was. Well, I guess he never really did pancake people in Minnesota, but that was that would not have resolved anybody's concerns with Pat Elflein in Minnesota. And, wonder of wonders, the Jets decided not to extend Pat Elflein. So it was very interesting that people were like, wow, great deal. Good job, Jets.
Right. Yeah, Bradbury, it's been a great story thus far. I think if they can't re-sign him, though, or don't want to, for that matter, I feel good about your chances of finding a replacement, whether that's in the draft or the free agency. I don't know the market right now. I don't know who's supposed to be a free agent next year, but I would feel a lot better about trying to find a replacement for Patrick Peterson and Garrett Bradbury versus Dalvin Tomlinson, given the drop-off in play that you'd have to expect as far as how good Tomlinson has looked through these 6 weeks.
So what
it's
is that
supposed to be a good
extension
center
look
class
like?
in the draft.
4 and 40? Is it a 3 and 36? What is that extension?
For who? Dalvin?
Tomlinson.
4 and 40 makes a lot of sense. He's 28, so you'd extend him through
Yeah.
age 32, or I guess age 33 season.
Sure.
Yeah, if you
and
could get
at
him
that
8-9 mil, that would be great. But yeah,
That'd be
probably
amazing,
around
yeah.
10 mil seems about right. Yeah.
We got Ron Johnson coming up on the Minnesota Football Party. A reminder, make sure to check out betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting needs, football-related, basketball-related, hockey-related, MMA, boxing, and golf. It's all there. We're not able to look at a Vikings line this week because they have a bye, so we're keeping an eye on that Gophers line. They were 5-point underdogs at Penn State. I kind of like the Gophers in a plucky bounce-back game in Penn State. That's where I am right now, in fact, and it is gorgeous here. Wow, I love Happy Valley. Check that out, betonline.net, where the game starts. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, Locked On Sports Minnesota. Get all of our shows on video. And you can see me in this janky hotel room and Arif Hassan in an undisclosed location. Ron Johnson around the corner. Update from Ron. He's a little bit away, so we are going to play some Vikings Would You Rather. This is just some absurd scenarios that I devised. This is what we do on the bye week. So here's scenario number 1. Greg Joseph misses the rest of his 50-yard field goals the rest of the season. He's already missed 4 in a row. Or the Vikings give up one 50-yard play in every other game the rest of the season. Which negative scenario are you choosing?
50-yard play in every other game, I think I can handle that. Doesn't necessarily mean a touchdown or even 3 points, right? Depends on what you do after it, where it happened on the field. Missing every 50-plus field goal, I think, that's a tough pill to swallow. You know this team is incapable of winning games by a wide margin. You know how important special teams has been to the start of their 5-1 start. So you only expect to hit about 50% of those, but those 3 points are probably more critical to winning than the 50-yard play every other game, which would just be again, I think you can soften that blow. I think that's manageable. Bring on the explosive plays. I can live with that. If that means Joseph hitting even some of those long field goals, I think I would rather have that.
Okay.
Question
Vikings
for this
know?
scenario.
Yes.
Do they know? Like, dude, hey, we're going to use
Wait,
it.
so
like
they know
in the
that he
scenario.
cannot make a 50. They know
Do
that
they-
he
yeah,
cannot hit a
this-
50-yarder?
That's a good question.
Because if they know
They
that,
don't.
that changes it. Okay, that's what I thought.
They
Okay,
don't
that's
know.
They
what
don't know.
So my question is it an additional 50-yard play every other game, or we're just guaranteed every other game that there will be at least one, maybe more? But if there was already going to be one, maybe that one replaces it.
It's not
This
Let's
is
say that
important.
it's one.
Okay.
One.
The reason I
guaranteed
asked
one.
that is because basically every team has already done that, has already given up a 50-yard play every other game. Not every team. There's a couple of teams that have only given up 2 in 6 games, but basically every team has done that. So that is not that unusual in the state of affairs. And in fact, if the Vikings were limited to one every other game, that would be better, which technically this scenario is not doing. But that doesn't materially change things all that much for the Vikings, so I would rather we make some more 50-yarders.
Interesting. Ron?
Yeah, I'll take the field goals. If they don't know, I will take making the field goals. Because I can just imagine a lot of games coming down to a 51-yarder and being like that moment versus, like Luke said, a 50-yard explosive play can be overcome. You can make that stop, and then that's 3 points, or at worst it's one touchdown. You can overcome giving up a touchdown, and that's not even that crazy out of the realm of possibilities. But losing drives that could otherwise be scoring drives, especially that inevitably, if it happens every single 50-yarder, inevitably games will come down to this, which I know is not like the right way to say it. But I also think from an EPA perspective, 150-yard play will be less. Every other game would add up to be less than every 50-yard field goal. but I'm going off the dome for that. But that would be my guess.
So I looked at the answers to the test. I've got the data on this. There is a far stronger correlation with losing if you give up a 50-yard play than if you miss a 50-yard field goal. In fact, there's an anti-correlation because in the last 3 years, teams that make a 50-plus yard field goal lose well more than 50% of the time. 127 out of 210, or 127 out of 217. If you give up a 50-yard play, you lose 60% of the time. So I'm going
this doesn't change my mind at all. Well, it's just because of how correlations occur. If you're giving up 50-yard plays, you're probably a bad defense. If you're a normal defense that happens to give up a 50-yard play, that's a little bit different. If you're kicking a lot of 50-yard field goals, you're probably not getting into the red zone. You're probably not a very good offense, so you're losing games. This doesn't change my mind at all. You've just confused correlation and causation.
The Vikings have kicked a lot of 50-yard field goals, and they win games, Arif.
Yeah, so you're wrong.
Exactly.
That's analytics.
That's what I'm saying to you.
All right, so
Help me help you.
totally boxed Arif in on that one. That's a point. That's a point
Got
for Sam.
him.
Beat him in the marketplace of ideas. Out-dueled.
How about this one?
But Sam was the one who was wrong.
No.
What does he mean?
Yeah,
Arif,
that's winning.
Arif,
Wow,
I knocked
Arif
you out.
Steven.
The argument's over.
That doesn't make any sense.
KOC
Whoa.
gets all of his challenges correct the rest of the season, or the Vikings 0 personal fouls the rest of the way.
Yeah, the second one.
The second one for sure.
Yes, I think it
I'll
was
take my
Luke.
chances on
Weren't you the one?
challenges.
Luke, weren't you the one who tweeted out Vikes are like the #1 team in the NFL at something like gaining yards from flags over their opponents? So, not sure how that correlates right here, but yeah, losing a challenge obviously isn't what you want. But just because you challenge a call doesn't mean they didn't get it right on the field in the first place, and you just made a gamble and lost, I guess. I think if you were to tell me the Vikes could go the whole season with no personal foul penalties, which we've seen can swing games and be a huge advantage for the opposing team, I would take that over losing challenges, which may not even occur every game. Like last week in Miami, they didn't have a challenge last week, did they? I don't think so. Whereas a personal foul could more likely occur 2, 3, sometimes even more times a game.
If this was
that
another
was from-
situation where they know, if they know that if they throw a challenge
Right.
flag, they'll automatically win it. 100%, I want that one. Right? It's just cheating at that point.
Upon further review,
But-
the runner who went 70 yards for a touchdown was short of the line to gain.
Hit the B-dubs button. Call it back.
But what about if they know they can't get a personal foul and they can just light you up all day? They could be the
Oh,
dirtiest
good
team of all
point.
time and never get flagged.
Good point.
Oh, yeah.
This is a much better
Yeah.
scenario.
Get the one where they know? Yeah. Well, because the thing with the challenges
That's
is
how the
that you
Saints
can
won the
just
Super
pick
Bowl.
crucial
They just
moments
knew.
in the game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, if you could literally just knock a receiver out, if you could just like punch them right in the chin strap and then they'd just be out. Not that you would intentionally injure players. I just mean over the course of play,
Right.
while the ball is in the air, sort of thing. But yeah, they wouldn't be able to complete another pass.
See, that scenario, if you can't get penalized for a personal foul, that's every single play you have an advantage, where the challenges have a finite limit because you only would get 3 per game.
Right. You are abated to the quarterback every single time.
No face masks, right? Those are personal fouls.
Yeah, hands to the face, face mask.
You'll just start breaking necks.
No roughing the
and-
passer.
Albert Hainsworth, a big step right, on your
Yeah.
face. Yeah, didn't see it. Sorry, can't call it. Sorry, man.
Don't like where our brains
I do
went
wanna
with
credit,
this one. What's the next
No,
one?
not at all.
Luke, real quick, you brought up the Vikings lead the league right now in like net penalty advantage gained by not committing penalties of their own and benefiting from penalties of their opponents. That was from Anthony Reinhardt. That was his work. I just wanted to credit that.
That was great.
Yeah, that was a good stat. The last one, schedule-wise, would you rather beat the Bills and lose to the Bears, or beat the Cowboys and lose to the Commanders?
It's almost a given, no matter how good of a team the Vikes have. They struggle in Chicago every year. Favre in 2009 couldn't even win in Soldier. So no matter how bad the Bears team is, I've just been conditioned to believe Vikes will at least struggle and probably lose in Chicago. And if that means you beat the Bills, who should be, I would think at minimum 6, maybe even 7-point favorites, I give and give the team a legitimate win over what people are calling obviously an elite Super Bowl contender. I would take that 10 out of 10 times. A loss to the Commanders, I feel like, hurts a lot more than a loss in Soldier, in my opinion. Just given the history, and a win over Buffalo, I think just means so much more than a win over Dallas, in my opinion, because Dallas 4-1 right now. Fun story, Cooper Rush. They get Dak back soon, but you can't tell me they're on the same level as the Bills, who's just clearly the team to beat in this league right now, and I think would just mean so much more to this Viking team, who's struggled against their only tough kind of litmus test against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2. So yeah, give me the loss at Soldier. If that means a win in Buffalo, I'll take that.
I don't agree with Luke at all. So I would rather lose to the Bills and beat the Bears because of how important the divisional tiebreakers are, even when you're determining seeding in the playoffs. If there's just that much of a chance you can get an additional home field advantage, I would do that. Even knowing that the question does not, flip it, right? Like if I chose, not to take the win over the Bills, I don't know if I'm going to get the win over the Bears, although I think based on how the question was framed, I would. I still would do that, right? I just don't want the guaranteed loss to the Bears, even though I know that is a strong likelihood given the Vikings' history. With the Cowboys over the Commanders, I mean, that one would suck. I'd hate to lose to the Commanders for a variety of reasons. You all know that. But the Cowboys is one of the teams that...
He's not playing.
Yeah. The Cowboys are one of the teams that the Vikings are competing for with seeding, and maybe, if things go sideways in the NFC North, would be competing for a wild card spot. I mean, they probably won't be because the NFC North is terminal, but I think that this is another team with which you have to worry about seeding with. So take the win over the Cowboys over the loss to the Commanders. God,
that does make sense.
Yeah.
I understand that theory with the seeding and come playoff time. It does make sense.
It's the easiest spin zone for you though, Arif, because if the Commanders beat us without Carson Wentz,
no, I understand. I can turn the win against the Cowboys
like Heineke,
and loss against the Commanders in my favor. Yeah, no, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the answer is the one with better tiebreakers. Yeah, and beating the Bills, as cool as that would be, because they're a good team,
be dope.
They are a conference or a non-conference opponent too. So give me the conference win, and I'll avoid the divisional loss. And like the Cowboys might come into play with common games if we're competing with like Philadelphia for seeding or the Giants for seeding or whatever in a wild card. So that one matters a lot.
For all practicality, the beating the Cowboys and potentially not the Bears, probably better. However, for power rankings points, beating the Bills, definitely better. And that's really what it's all about.
True.
Is being
and losing to the
one.
Bears would sink you. In a meaningless game for them, by the way, because they will be eliminated by then.
Correct.
When has that ever happened before?
Never. Let's not talk about it. Hey, make sure to check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, and they give you greater insights probably than these silly would-you-rathers, including Sunday and Monday Night Football and betting advice from the field's leading experts, Bet Online. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Still waiting for the appearance of Ron Johnson. Gambling update. We've got to get into our Bet Online gambling segment for the day, where we make a bet against the spread and one over-under. Arif, the new leader, $735. Now, you still have a punishment coming your way. Let's not forget that. And guess who joins you? It can be like a tag team. Luke Inman, you're going to get punished because you went 0-2 to fall $265 in the hole. Braun and I are sitting right in the middle at $500 and change. Arif, what a course correction, my friend. Well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just have to be smarter than everybody else on the podcast, and I was able to manage that because of who I work with.
These are our collective records, by the way. Arif is 4-8. Braun is 4-7-1. I am 4-8. Luke Inman is 3-9. This is rough.
Bad.
This is not going well. Gambling is hard.
Yikes.
While we wait for Ron Johnson, let's actually start with these picks, because I think we can probably fit him in before he gets here. So I start this week, and then we go to Inman, Arif, and Braun. Maximum 700, minimum 7 this week. I am gonna pick in the battle of bad Wilson quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Russell Wilson. I'm fading the Jets. I'm not going to believe in the Jets. And I hate doing this because the Broncos are so egregious. But New York is not going to go above altitude or at altitude and beat the Broncos. It's a pick'em game. The Jets are winning more unsustainably than the Vikings. I'm picking against the Jets, and unfortunately that means I have to support the Broncos. But I'm going Broncos pick'em at minus 117 for 2 hundo.
All right, we don't need to spend too much time on mine. You already know where I'm going. I actually don't even like this spread. How are the Jaguars favored over the 5-1 Giants by 3 points? I've lost 4 in a row with the Jags. There's no way I can lose 5 in a row. It just can't happen. It's just like, you get it? You know what I mean? Hey, guys, can I borrow some money? Just real quick. Give me the Jags. Love Arif's theory. You just keep doubling. You just keep upping the bet. There's no real punishment or penalty if you lose $200 versus $2,000, right? So last week I bet $200. I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to bet $300 on the Jags -3 at home versus the Giants. -112 that currently sits at.
300, you said?
300.
Okay. Reef.
Cowboys get Dak back against the Lions. They're favored by a touchdown. That's not enough. Cowboys -7, -110, betting $100. I think the Patriots solved the Lions offense. The Cowboys defense is also still pretty good.
Braun.
I'll go tonight. I don't believe in the Cardinals at all. I think they are a catastrophe team, and I actually think the Saints offense is figuring some stuff out. So I will take the Saints plus 2.5 at -105 on Thursday Night Football.
For how much money?
I get it. $100. We're gonna keep it normal while I'm not in the pits. I'll get desperate if I get lower.
Who does that?
And then, goodness, I really wanted Cowboys Lions under 49, but I can't take that now, so I have to scramble.
That was
find
my
something
favorite
else.
under too.
Yeah.
I might bet that under with real money. That seems kind of wild.
Yeah.
I'll just pick one. What could go wrong? Texans Raiders over 45.5 for $50.
What are the odds? Oh, you can't do 50. That's
minus-
too low. You want the
Oh, that's
minimum?
too
Yeah,
low
minimum
still?
70.
Yeah, minimum bet because of the confidence, and that is at -115.
Or-
Watch that be the
Hey,
only
Arif.
bet I win in like 3 weeks. The one I don't think about.
The one you picked randomly, just dartboard.
Yeah.
Bears Patriots under 40 -110. Bears defense is actually kind of okay. Patriots defense is wildly good. Neither quarterback can throw downfield for completely different reasons, it turns out. But yeah, neither quarterback can throw downfield. So I'll take the under 40 on that one, -110 for. Let's do $100 on that one too.
$100. Inman.
It's the little things that get you in the hole. Nobody was going to bet on the Jags. Why didn't I go Bears Patriots under? I love that under. I went with the Bears last week under. So I got to go to plan B. Seahawks Chargers over 50.5, -110, $300.
$300. And that means I conclude with an over-under. I am liking Dolphins, Steelers under 45. I think the Steelers offense is brutal. I don't care if Tua comes back because the Dolphins have scored over 21 points exactly one time, and everybody overreacted. That's with or without Tua. I don't think Tua is going to come in and just light it up in his first game back. It's going to be a little bit tentative. They're not going to have him dropping back all that much, and it's not like they're going to need to drop back because they're behind because the Steelers can't score either. So I'm going to put $171 on the under 45. The odds on that, anybody?
113.
Thank you. 113. And that's a wrap. Those are the picks this week. And I'm actually going to CC you guys so you don't have to text me begging me for your picks because you don't remember them. So I just sent the email right now. There it is.
You say
It's
begging,
out
and
there.
I just ask once, and you just never respond.
I think
Look
it was
at
more
that.
than
There it
once.
is. Right there. Boom.
Well, it's once a week.
Every Sunday at about 2:45.
Shows you how invested we are. Like, all three of us have to text you every Sunday at about, 3:58. What were our picks again? All right.
I bet I'm winning. Can you confirm?
He was indeed not winning until this week when he was.
Until this week.
The time has arrived. It's the return of Name Drop.
How fast can you think? It's time for the most chaotic game in the Viking podcast sphere. It's Name Drop.
Yes, it's Name Drop from way back in the football machine days. People have asked for it, and we will deliver. These are the rules. Matt DeBritz, our director, will give a category. Offensive or defensive players from one of divisions. We will go around the circle trying to name a player that fits the category. If you can't think of one in 5 seconds, you are out. If you name a duplicate, you are out. The group is allowed to challenge if you say like a fake player or a player that doesn't fit, but you have to challenge in the 5 seconds. Those are the rules. I think we're ready to go. We will start with Lucan. I just decided that. Matt DeBritz, you alone know the categories. What is our first category? We'll go for 5 rounds. NFC South
NFC
offensive
South.
players.
Ready to roll?
Ready to roll? Let's play Name Drop.
Tyler Algier.
Cordero Patterson.
Christian McCaffrey.
Michael Thomas.
Mike Evans.
Drake London.
Baker Mayfield.
No.
3, 2,
Kyle Pitts.
1. Oof. Leonard Fournette.
Chris Olave.
Patrick Elflein.
Andrews Pete.
Russell Gage.
Nice. Alvin Kamara.
Taylor Moton?
Is he?
Is he still in the Panthers?
Caleb McGarry.
Oh, too late.
Wait, got it in. Tristan Wirfs.
Dog. Chris Godwin. Did I say that?
Tight end Ian Thomas.
No way. No, he got cut. No
Okay.
way.
Is
That's
he
a
not still in the
challenge.
Panthers?
That's a challenge.
I think he got cut.
Stop the clock.
He got cut? Shoot.
Let's look.
It's fine.
Ah!
No!
Oh,
Tight end
so
for
is
the
a
Carolina
Reef
Panthers
out?
as a national
An illegal challenge. Yeah, Reef is out.
Whoa. Dang. That was a good one.
Just weird enough.
Okay.
Now I gotta find out about Taylor Moton.
All right, we'll start the
Shoot,
clock
the guy-
again with me. Reef is out. I'm going to go with Taysom Hill.
Jameis Winston.
Has anybody said Drake London?
Yes.
What? Don't tell him.
Well, yeah, that's my guess. Yeah.
Okay, heads up with Luke. Terran Armstead. Nope, that's not the right. That's the wrong team.
He's in Miami. You get one, Luke?
I only had one left, Tom Brady, but I can't remember if he's been said. Tom Brady?
Luke wins the round.
No, I don't think he had been said.
Sounds like an obvious to me.
We're all
Arif
out.
was so mad.
Arif has left the room. All right, our next round. AFC East
Solved it.
defensive
Wow, okay.
player. We'll start with Arif this.
Quinton Williams.
Kyle Van Noy.
Jordan
Tre'Davious
Poyer.
White.
Oh, you're up. All right. Tre'Davious White,
yeah,
Jordan
you win it.
Poyer.
Okay. Von Miller.
Ed Oliver.
Xavier Howard.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Jermaine Johnson.
Christian Wilkins.
Sauce Gardner.
Gregory Rousseau.
Noah Igbinoghene.
Was it Nick Needham?
Did they count if they're
Yeah.
on IR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jalen Phillips.
Who's the linebacker behind him? Jerome Baker? 50-50.
Yeah, Byron Jones. Yeah, Jerome Baker's on there.
His name escapes me. I'm done. I was trying to think of a Patriots safety and I forgot it. And then froze. I'm out.
Okay, down to 3. I'm losing my. Is there a McCourty? Devin McCourty? Is he still?
I think so, Arif. I think so, right?
Yes, and that is who I was trying to think of.
Okay. No one had to waste a challenge.
Who's the other young safety? Duggar? Kyle Duggar?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, Matt Milano.
I'm done. I'm out. Arif and Luke.
Christian Barrymore.
You're pronouncing that wrong, but I'll count it. Landon Roberts.
Jets. Anybody on the Jets? Oh, Jerome Johnson.
2.
Oh, wait.
Jeremiah
Did you say
Johnson?
Jerome?
What's his name? Johnson.
That's a
Johnson!
Is there?
Yeah, that would be a repeat.
Somebody said him?
Whatever you were about to
Okay.
say, yeah.
Jerome Johnson
Jermaine
was a Colombo crime family associate who was hired by Joe Gallo to assassinate Don Joseph Colombo, not, in fact, a New York Jet.
Right. But did he play in the NFL?
But if he was.
Right.
To be continued on Monday. That's the Minnesota football party for today. For Luke Inman, Luke Braun, Arif Hassan, thank you for watching the shenanigans. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy your bye week weekend. Watch some football, and we'll talk to you again on Monday.